Sakamoto Ryota is a young guy, 22 years old. He is playing a game called Btooom, and he defeats his opposing team by himself. Finally, he manages to win the game. Ryota is the 10th ranked player in the world. Btooom is a multiplayer game where the players will fight other players. This game is very popular in the world and is played by many people. The bomb is the only weapon in this game. The players also use a sensor to detect the enemy, or it will ring when the enemy gets closer. In the Btooom game, Ryota is a great player and is admired by many people. He even has a wife in the world of this game, while in the real world, he is a shut-down young guy who doesn't have a job. After winning the game, Ryota states he and his team has to fight abroad teams so that their rank goes up. Not long after that, Ryota and his team are challenged by the second-ranked player. Ryota accepts the challenge and surprisingly, Ryota can match his opponent equally. But in the middle of the game, he suddenly forgets what happened. A second later, Ryota is transported into a deep forest. He calls out for help, but no one is there. He then realizes there is a green crystal planted on the back of his left palm. He then finds a case and groceries he bought beforehand. Ryota begins walking through the forest while wondering how he ended up in that place. After walking for a while, he arrives at a beach. There, he sits down and he begins to remember what happened. When he was playing the game, he had to meet his mother. He felt annoyed because his mother signed him up for a job in a convenience store. Ryota was angry and left home. Meanwhile, his mother looked at him with a suspicious glance. After finishing shopping, Ryota was stopped by several mysterious men and he lost his memories since then. Back at the beach, Ryota eats his food and checks what is inside the bag he found in the forest. There are several small cubes in the bag. He wonders what they are and he picks one of them and presses the button on it. That time, the countdown timer appears on the cube. Feeling something is off, Ryota throws the cube away. Not long after that, the cube explodes with a bang. It turns out the cubes are bombs. When the day gets darker, Ryota spots someone in afar. Ryota waves his hand and asks for help, but he is thrown something and immediately explodes in front of him. Ryota is knocked back, but he is fine because his throw missed. Ryota realizes the incident just now is similar to the Btooom game. Meanwhile, the mysterious man has run towards him. Ryota immediately grabs his bag and runs away, while the man throws him a bomb again and it explodes behind him. Ryota arrives in a cliff area. He thinks that in Btooom, the most important thing is hiding from the enemy. Just then, an explosion occurs and almost hits him. Ryota gets ready to throw a bomb toward the man, but he is not sure as he is worried that it will kill him. However, the man throws the bomb again. When the bomb explodes, Ryota rushes to run away. Ryota throws a bomb, but it goes into the water and it doesn't explode. He then remembers he needs to push the button first. After he pushes the button, he throws the bomb, but it is bounced when it hits his enemy and goes into the water. A moment later, the bomb explodes in the water. Ryota is confused because his bomb didn't explode right away like his enemy's bomb. Doesn't want to get hurt, Ryota runs away and hides. He then appears behind his enemy and asks the man what is going on. The man laughs at Ryota because he doesn't remember anything and even doesn't know how to use the bomb. His enemy throws a bomb again towards him, but it misses. Even so, Ryota is knocked down because he is close to the explosion. He gets up and runs away. Feeling he is at a safe distance, he stops and states he gives up. But his enemy throws him a bomb again, which lands right in front of him. It explodes and Ryota falls on the grass. He thinks he is going to die. His enemy looks for him, and he feels the crystal on his hand shining. He assumes it is a kind of sensor to detect the enemy's presence like in the Btooom game. He even can feel his enemy approaching. He thinks that hiding is useless if his enemy uses the same sensor. Suddenly, there is an explosion near Ryota's place. His enemy doesn't seem to know his location. While learning the situation, Ryota takes out a bomb, and he realizes he has a type of timer detonator, while his enemy has a bomb that will explode right away when it hits something. Ryota's bomb will explode when it runs out of time. Ryota stands up and runs towards the edge, and he jumps into the water. While his enemy runs towards him, he hides himself while dipping into the water. Ryota starts counting down, and not long after that, the bomb explodes. He can see the pieces of his enemy's body splashed into the water. Ryota gets out of the water while convincing himself that he had no intention of killing someone and that he only wanted to survive. That time, he spots his enemy's bag which contains the bombs. The scene switches. It turns out Ryota wanted to work in a game company. He met someone in the company, but he didn't get the job. Ryota wanted to work according to his passion, thus he decided not to work anywhere if it was not in the game company. His mother asked him to work, but he didn't want to do that. One day, his mother offered him to work at the udon cafe, but Ryota, who was playing the game, refused her offer. His mother states he had been unemployed for 2 years. Because his mother kept nagging at him, Ryota was angry and threw his stick at the wall next to his mother. The scene returns to the present. Ryota wakes up and finds himself in a river. Not far from him, he sees a beautiful girl having a bath in the river. Ryota is fascinated with her beautiful figure. The girl is shocked to see Ryota, who suddenly comes. In the past, there was a girl who was playing the game Btooom, but mostly watched during the game. One day, she met Ryota, who just defeated a team from France. Ryota approached her and asked her name. Her name is Himiko, and it was the first time she met Ryota Sakamoto in the game of Btooom. Himiko is a normal blonde-haired high school student. One afternoon, she went out for a walk with her friend named Mio. They talked about Ryota Sakamoto. Himiko stated that since she joined Ryota's team, her rank went up drastically. Himiko and Mio went to a photo box studio and dressed up like in a game and took pictures with sexy poses. Mio suggested that Himiko send the picture to Ryota because they only met in the game. Mio thought Ryota would be shocked if he found out Himiko is a high school student who has a beautiful body. One day, she is sent to a deserted island. On the island, she walks through the forest and arrives at a beach. She feels like it is a punishment for her. She recalls during her school life. One day, Mio told her she received a mysterious letter saying that if there was someone she wanted to vanish, she only needed to write the name on it, and Mio would get a lot of money. It turned out that the news about several missing people was becoming a hot topic in Japan. Himiko wakes up from her reverie. She lies on the beach and several people are surrounding her. There are 3 men and they assure her that they won't hurt her. Himiko then gets informed that the island is huge and there is no sign of living. They throw a bomb into the sea so that there are many fishes die due to the explosion. After catching the fish, they roast them and eat together. One of them states they need to wait for a ship to pass by, but because there is no ship passing by, one of them thinks they should play a game, but the idea is rejected by a man who thinks they must work together. The man is Miyamoto Masashi. They argue about what they should do. Because they still haven't decided yet, he picks up his bomb and takes Himiko hostage. But it turns out he is only joking and he spares her. One of the men called Mitsuo Akechi suggests that they take off their bags and hand them over to Himiko. After that, Akechi spots a plane above. The plane drops something in the forest. They rush to go there and find the supply that is enough for them to survive. They begin to eat the food. One of them nags at them, saying that they should not eat all of the food supply. Because he keeps nagging, Miyamoto stabs him to death, and the crystal on his hand is detached from his hand. The scene switches to the past. After school, Himiko and her friends talked about a guy named Yoshioka who lives next to Himiko. Mio, who was a big fan of him, wanted to meet him. Not long after that, they met Yoshioka's band, which consisted of handsome guys. Mio was happy to see Yoshioka's bands. The scene returns to the present. Himiko wakes up and Akechi goes to meet her. He invites her to run away. He doesn't want to get close to Miyamoto after the murder incident. While Miyamoto is still sleeping, Akechi tells Himiko to run away from him. Akechi has picked up all the bombs and supplies. After that, he and Himiko head out through the forest. In the forest, Akechi feels the presence of Miyamoto through his radar, and he and Himiko rush to run away. They arrive at a bridge. Himiko gets to cross the bridge while Akechi is afraid that the bridge may collapse if he crosses it. Just then, Miyamoto appears behind Akechi. It turns out Miyamoto doesn't know about the radar, and he searches for Himiko and Akechi without the radar. Scared, Akechi throws a bomb and runs after that. The bomb explodes, but Miyamoto dodges the bomb. Himiko realizes everyone has different types of bombs. Akechi's bomb can emit poisonous gas. Meanwhile, Miyamoto runs away because he doesn't want to die when inhales the poisonous gas. On the other hand, Himiko and Akechi continue on their way. After being safe from Miyamoto, Akechi takes Himiko's hand and keeps walking. He says that they have to fight other people on this island. Himiko doesn't want to kill anyone, but Akechi convinces her that it is the best way so that they can survive. However, Himiko states she still doesn't want to kill anyone and tries to get away from his grip. At that time, she recalls her past when a guy held her hand and didn't want to release her. Panic, Himiko hits Akechi's face. Akechi is annoyed and hugs her, while Himiko freaks out and tries to get away from him. Akechi states he wants to protect her and tries to hug her again, but he falls unconscious after Himiko electrocutes him.
What was that for?
The scene switches to the past. One afternoon, Himiko went to Yoshioka's house. When she arrived, Yoshioka's friends were already there. They said they had been waiting for her. Meanwhile, Himiko's friends were lying on the floor after the guys raped them. Himiko was shocked to see that and intended to run away, but Yoshioka held her hand and told her he was going to make her enjoy it. Himiko freed herself from Yoshioka and ran away. At that time, she saw Mio in a room who asked her for help, but she couldn't do anything, and the other guys approached her, trying to get her. Fortunately, Himiko managed to run away, but she left Mio in that room, being raped by the guys. Himiko felt guilty for inviting her friends to meet Yoshioka and his band. After that, the police arrested Yoshioka and his band. Meanwhile, Himiko's friends decided to move away until one day Himiko met Mio, who was furious and blamed Himiko for what happened. Mio said she hated her and hoped that she would disappear. Back to the present, Himiko wakes up from her daydream. She is hiding behind the wall, and at that time, Akechi finds her. Unable to escape, Himiko falls on her back while Akechi sits on it. After that, Akechi tries to touch her. Himiko then takes out a bomb. She pushes the button and intends to commit suicide with Akechi. Doesn't want to die in the explosion. Akechi runs away, leaving Himiko alone. But at that time, Himiko throws the bomb, and it explodes as it hits Akechi. Himiko finally killed a person, but she thinks it is the only way for her to survive. After that, she goes to the river to clean herself. Just then, Ryota appears in front of her. Himiko is shocked and walks away because she is traumatized by men. Himiko packs her stuff and runs away from Ryota. Meanwhile, Ryota immediately follows her using a sensor on her hand to find her location. But he is surprised when he sees someone nearby. He approaches the person and finds a man who is defecating. The man is surprised to see Ryota and says he didn't mean to do bad things. He also wants Ryota to put his bomb down. Ryota agrees as long as he tells what is going on. The man introduces himself as Tera Kiyoshi. He begins talking about what happened. He was brought by mysterious men and brought in a cargo plane. Tens of people like him are on the plane. A monitor showed someone's face and explained what happened. On the screen, the man explained that they would be sent to a deserted island in the Pacific. The man explained they would be provided with different bombs. Besides, they have planted a crystal on their hand which functioned as a radar, and it couldn't be detached. It was explained that if someone died, the crystal would detach automatically. Furthermore, they were informed that if they wished to leave the island, they needed to collect 8 crystals from the other players. Ryota protests the system. It turns out Ryota recognizes the man that appeared on the screen. Because he protested, the guards immediately shot him with an electric shock. Ryota also fainted and lost his memory. In addition, everyone on the plane was immediately thrown off the plane. After listening to the story from Tera, Ryota starts to remember it. He recognizes the man on the screen is a person from the Btooom game development company, meaning that what happened on the island was created similarly to the game Btooom. After that, Tera asks Ryota to work together, and Ryota agrees. Not long after that, a plan passes by over the island to deliver food supplies. Several supplies are dropped for all players. Ryota rushes to get one of them that landed not far from his place. Before he reaches them, Ryota sees a woman taking the supply. Just then, a bomb explodes. A man comes after the explosion and takes all the supplies. Ryota then realizes that because everyone can see the direction the supplies fell, the others could have set a trap. Ryota and Tera head to the other supplies. When they almost arrive, Ryota activates his sensor and he feels someone in the direction where the supplies are. When they arrive at the location, he spots a shabby boy who just slaughtered another participant. The scene switches to the boy's past. It turns out he ran away from his house because his father liked to hit him. Since then, the boy has committed various brutal crimes. At that time, he was arrested for killing and raping several girls. Even so, a well-known lawyer would try to defend that boy named Kira Kosuke. Kosuke landed on the island with his lawyer called Natsume and his father Kira. One afternoon, Kosuke killed many frogs. Natsume appeared and was shocked to see he had killed 100 frogs brutally. They then walked around the beach. Natsume forbade him from hurting the animals. Just then, they spotted a plan to bring the supplies king closer. Kosuke wanted to get it, but Natsume suggested that they tell Kosuke's father first. A moment later, Kosuke, Natsume, and Kira arrived at the location of the supplies landed. Unfortunately, the supplies were stuck in a tree. Kira asked Kosuke to use his bomb. Because Kosuke didn't move, Kira snatched the bomb from Kosuke and attached it to the tree, but the bomb didn't react. It turned out Kosuke's bomb would only be activated if he used it. Kosuke activated the bomb and the tree fell immediately. After obtaining the supplies, Kira decided to have it for himself. Natsume protested as the supplies should have been divided for the three of them. Kira refused and he approached Kosuke to torment him. Kosuke recalled the time he lived with his father. He was playing Btooom and his father suddenly came to beat him up. Annoyed with his father, Kosuke attached a bomb to his father. Kira tried to detach the bomb, but the bomb was suddenly activated. His body tore apart and fell. Kosuke laughed seeing his father die. Natsume was scared and he ran away. That was when Ryota and Tara found him. Arriving there, Ryota wonders why he cannot detect the people on his radar. He remembers that the radar can only detect people who move. That's why Ryota cannot detect Kosuke, who stands still. Feeling danger, Ryota and Tara run away, while Kosuke tries to take his father's bombs. While running away, Tara tripped and sprained his leg. Ryota then asks him to hide, while he will deal with Kosuke. Ryota runs and Kosuke chases him from behind. It turns out both of them can use radar well. Ryota turns around and runs towards Kosuke. While the two meet, they drop their bombs and run away. The bombs explode without hurting anybody. Ryota is surprised that Kosuke thinks of the same trick. He is sure that Kosuke is also a Btooom player. After that, Kosuke gets excited to fight Ryota. He realizes that Ryota is a Btooom player. Kosuke warns Ryota that he is good at playing Btooom. He runs chasing Ryota using his radar. He throws bombs several times and almost hurts Ryota. Meanwhile, Ryota is still reluctant to kill Kosuke. His decision gives a bad effect on him, as Kosuke's attack almost hits him. On the other hand, Tara approaches Kira's dead body and takes his crystal. He wishes that Ryota is alive. After that, Ryota runs away from Kosuke. Kosuke runs after him, but suddenly, a bomb explodes beneath him. Luckily, he manages to avoid it. After that, Kosuke runs after Ryota using his radar. As he finds Ryota's location, he throws the bombs continuously to find him until he cannot find Ryota on his radar. He knows that Ryota is not moving. That's why Kosuke is excited to find him even more. But suddenly Ryota appears behind him while throwing the bomb. Kosuke dodges the explosion and is shocked that Ryota can move without being detected on the radar. It turns out Ryota learned Kosuke's movement. When Kosuke activates his radar, Ryota also activates his radar. When the two radars are active and clash, it will deactivate the function of the radar. After successfully moving undetected, Ryota throws the bomb, and it explodes right next to him. Kosuke faints and Ryota ties him up. When Kosuke gains his senses, Ryota states he will take all of his supplies. He leaves Kosuke a chocolate wafer to keep alive. Before leaving, Kosuke asks Ryota's name. While walking away, Ryota introduces himself. At that time, Kosuke realizes that Ryota is the top 10 player in the world and the only player from Japan who ranks in the top 10. Ryota and Tara relax while eating noodles. Ryota wonders why he was sent to the island. The scene switches to the past, where Ryota's father just got home and saw his wife cut her hand in the bathroom. He stopped the bleeding, and his wife told him she knew that he would be fired soon. Besides, Ryota always treated him badly because he was not his biological father. Back to the present, Akechi's corpse suddenly appears in the river near Ryota and Tara. Ryota tries to investigate the surrounding area while Tara is waiting there. There, Ryota finds a rotting corpse with the crystal that had been taken out. After that, he uses the radar to search for people around him. He then finds Himiko on top of a cliff. Himiko throws a bomb that contains poisonous gas into the forest. Ryota runs away to avoid the toxic smoke, but as soon as he comes out of the forest, Ryota realizes that Himiko intended to come out of his hideout. They meet and look at each other. Meanwhile, Tara takes the crystal out of Akechi's corpse. He hopes that Ryota will come back soon. Ryota tries to convince Himiko that he will not hurt her, but Himiko doesn't trust him and assumes all men are the same. Himiko then throws a bomb, but Ryota dodges it. Ryota gets to approach her and tries to snatch the bomb from her hand, but Himiko avoids him and attacks Ryota with her stun gun. Ryota dodges her attacks, but he falls. Himiko tries to attack him again, but she ends up getting hit by her stun gun and faints. After that, Ryota takes off her bag and he begins to be seduced by her beauty. After looking at her for a while, he realizes what he is doing and changes his mind. Himiko wakes up and finds Ryota carrying her on his back. Ryota tells her he doesn't want to do anything bad to her. Initially, Himiko doesn't believe him and takes out a timer bomb, but Ryota stops the timer immediately. After that, Himiko trusts him. Ryota brings her to meet Tara. They then spend time together. Himiko says that there's no point in them getting off the island since no one wants them. Himiko explains that it was the people closest to them who sent them to the island. Himiko learned about it from Mio when she met her after the rape incident. Mio explains that she and her friends agreed to write Himiko's name in a mysterious letter. Tara finally realizes that he just had a conflict with his business partner. On the other hand, Ryota is shocked thinking that maybe his mother sent him there. Before the shock is over, Ryota suddenly realizes that something is approaching. He activates his radar but finds nothing. Tara takes out a flashlight and looks around. It is then that dozens of Komodo dragons emerge from the bushes. The Komodo dragons start attacking. Tara and Himiko rush away while Ryota picks up the supplies. Because they don't want to get hurt, Ryota throws a bomb at the Komodo dragons, but the bomb doesn't explode. He then remembers that the bomb belongs to Kausuke, and he doesn't know that only the owner of the bomb can activate the explosion. On the other hand, Tara gets bitten by a Komodo dragon. Ryota throws the bombs around Tara and kills the Komodo dragons, but Tara's leg has been bleeding and infected with the poison. Apart from that, Himiko suddenly faints. Ryota carries her on his back while Tara brings the supplies and walks slowly in front of Ryota. After walking for a while, the Komodo dragons come to attack again. Ryota is separated from Tara as they try to avoid the Komodo dragons. Ryota tries to find Tara with his radar, but he cannot find him. Ryota then realizes that Tara gets all the supplies that he feels he has left behind. Suddenly, a Komodo dragon appears and attacks him, but a target-type bomb appears and kills the Komodo dragon. Not long after that, Tara appears from behind. It turns out Tara looked for Ryota with his radar continuously. So Ryota, who also used his radar, accidentally deactivated the searching effect. After that, they continue walking to the higher place. They arrive at the area where there is a building in the area. They climb a ladder, but they fall because it breaks. That time, the Komodo dragons appear. Tara tells Ryota to bring Himiko up there while he will stop the Komodo dragons. Tara charges forward and targets the Komodo dragons with his bombs, but Ryota realizes Tara's attack is weak and his bomb is not effective. That's why he leaves Himiko there and climbs the building alone. Initially, Tara thinks Ryota wants to save himself. However, Ryota throws the poisonous smoke bomb toward the forest. The bomb explodes and the toxic smoke drives away the Komodo dragons. The smoke doesn't harm Ryota and his friends because the wind is blowing from the beach towards the forest, so the smoke also blows towards the forest. They are safe for the time being. Himiko finally wakes up, but not long after that, the Komodo dragon poison at Tara's leg begins to react. Tara starts to feel pain because of the wound he has suffered. Ryota and Himiko try to treat him all night. The following day, Tara's condition is getting better. Ryota talks with Himiko. He doesn't completely trust her because she has a lot of bombs, meaning that she has killed many people. But at that time, the radar on Himiko's hand shines. She realizes that her presence has been found out by the enemy. She suggests that Ryota leaves her as she is the only one who is found out, but Ryota tells her that he will get going and lures the enemy. Ryota then heads towards the forest while tracking the enemy's presence. Just then, Miyamoto appears and tries to attack Ryota with his knife. Ryota is cornered by his attacks. He jumps backward and tries to run away. Miyamoto runs after him and Ryota asks Miyamoto to work together. The bomb explodes near Ryota and he falls. It turns out Natsume has teamed up with Miyamoto. Ryota uses the stun gun to attack Natsume, and he runs away to Himiko and Tara's place. Not long after that, Miyamoto also arrives there. Miyamoto hurts Tara and cuts her fingers. After that, he pushes Ryota to the edge of the building. Miyamoto pushes Ryota until he falls from the edge. After that, Miyamoto takes Himiko away. Meanwhile, it turns out Ryota manages to survive because he is stuck on a branch of a tree. He climbs up and returns to Himiko's place, but he cannot find her. He then realizes that she is kidnapped. He picks Himiko's phone and looks at her wallpaper picture, which she cosplayed as the character of Himiko in the game. Ryota realizes that she is her wife in the game world. After that, he rushes to rescue her. On the other hand, Miyamoto and Natsume tie Himiko on the bed. Shortly after, they realize someone's radar is approaching. It turns out Ryota sent them a sign that he is coming. Natsume runs to take care of him. Not long after that, an explosion occurs. Miyamoto heads to check, and he finds Natsume, who failed to kill Ryota. Meanwhile, Ryota opens the door of the room, and a bomb falls from above. He catches the bomb carefully and presses the button to deactivate it. After it is safe, he gets to approach Himiko. While untying her, Ryota introduces himself and tells her he knows a girl named Himiko in a game. But Himiko states she rarely plays Btooom. She doesn't want to admit that she is Himiko, Ryota's fiancée. After that, they run away, but they get caught. They continue walking while hiding from Miyamoto and Natsume. Ryota manages to get rid of Natsume, but Miyamoto captures Himiko. Miyamoto throws a knife on the floor and tells Ryota to fight him. Leaving with no choice, Ryota picks up the knife and faces Miyamoto, but he falls and his life is at stake. Himiko jumps to stop Miyamoto, but he pushes her away. Ryota gets to run away when there is a chance. That is when the bomb on Miyamoto's body is pressed. Miyamoto tries to remove the bomb, but the explosion occurs. On the other hand, Ryota and Himiko are looking for a way out. The only way they find is the ceiling. Ryota jumps up and helps Himiko to climb, but suddenly, Miyamoto appears and holds Himiko's leg. Leaving with no choice, Ryota throws a timer bomb and lifts Himiko. The bomb explodes and Miyamoto disappears in the explosion. Meanwhile, it turns out that Ryota and Himiko are monitored by the organizer and are watched by people from various places. After escaping from the problem, Ryota and Himiko are resting in a building. Ryota offers Himiko to change her clothes. After changing clothes, Ryota tells her he will sleep in another room. Scared, Himiko asks Ryota to sleep near her. Later, Ryota talks about himself. He states he is an NEET or not in education, employment, or training, meaning that he is jobless. He tells her that he left his school to focus on playing the game. That's why he didn't have a lot of friends and only a player named Himiko who always accompanies him. That's why when he thinks Himiko is his friend in the game, he tries hard to rescue her. After telling the story, Ryota, who doesn't hear her voice, thinks she is asleep. But it turns out she is crying silently and doesn't want Ryota to know about that. Himiko sleeps after that. She dreams of having a wedding with Ryota in the game. When she wakes up, she sees a mysterious man who watches her from a close distance. She screams and wakes Ryota. However, there is no one there. Ryota searches through his radar, but he finds no one. He and Himiko then search around the building, but they don't find anyone until Ryota sees a room gleam. Ryota will investigate the room while Himiko will stay. Ryota enters the room, but he doesn't find anyone in the room. Just then, a mysterious woman appears and ambushes him. Ryota fights her and knocks her down. Ryota then realizes that her left arm is maimed. Ryota takes Himiko to see the woman. Himiko then talks to her, while Ryota watches outside. Her name is Murasaki Shiki, and she was sent to the island from the previous group. She used to be a nurse in a hospital. Once there was malpractice committed by her favorite doctor. Wanting to protect the doctor, Murasaki faked the medical report, but her action was caught, and Dr. Date took all the blame on Murasaki. Thus, Murasaki was sent to the island. It turned out Dr. Date was sent to the island as well. They met on the island and teamed up and collected the crystals together. When they got 6 crystals, Dr. Date suddenly betrayed her, and he threw the bomb at Murasaki. The bomb hit Murasaki. Murasaki managed to survive the explosion, but unfortunately, she lost her arm. Dr. Date took her crystal, and he got 8 crystals in total. A helicopter appeared and picked him up to leave the island. Murasaki tells Himiko that their cooperation will be tested when they obtain 6 crystals. Himiko then goes to meet Ryota and tells him Murasaki's story. Ryota states he has a plan to hijack the helicopter when they have 8 crystals and the helicopter comes. They can attack the helicopter and take it over. Not long after that, they bid goodbye to Murasaki and continue on their way to return to Terra's place. Meanwhile, in Terra's place, someone has already appeared. The person is no other than Dr. Date, who is sent back to the island for some reason. When Himiko and Ryota return, they find Dr. Date, who has treated Terra's hand. They get to know each other, and Date suggests that they work together. Without hesitation, Ryota agrees with his idea. After that, Ryota looks at Date's bombs. It turns out he has a bomb with a separate controller that can be activated at any time and from anywhere. Date hasn't used the bomb at all. Meanwhile, Date wants to take advantage of them. He knows that Ryota has 3 crystals and plans to hijack the helicopter. Date will pretend to help them. Not long after that, a helicopter appears and drops the supplies. Ryota invites Himiko and Date to hunt for the supplies. They run towards the forest while activating the radar. There are many players after the supplies, but Ryota will not give in. He hunts the nearest supplies. He spots Nobutaka Oda, a man with glasses who trapped them back then. They fight over the supplies, but none of them get it. Ryota and Oda face each other, while Himiko is ambushed by Oda's comrade called Hidemi. They fight, and Hidemi knocks her down. She puts the timer bomb and walks away from Himiko. The explosion occurs from the bomb. On the other hand, Oda and Ryota are still fighting. Meanwhile, Date manages to get the supplies, but the parachute is blown by the wind that Date has a hard time getting it. Ryota tells Date to run away because Oda is approaching. Date walks away, and when Oda gets closer, he realizes that Date has planted the remote controller detonator. The explosion occurs and the supplies are thrown towards Ryota. Ryota grabs the supplies and runs away, but suddenly a fire-type explosion appears, and he is surrounded by the fire. The culprit is a man who teamed up with Kosuke named Tomoki Iwakura. As a result, Ryota cannot go anywhere. Just then, Oda appears and gets through the fire and steals the supplies. He then jumps into the sea to avoid the fire. Ryota follows him to save himself. Meanwhile, Himiko manages to survive the explosion. She then fights Hidemi. But Hidemi is so good at martial arts that she can knock her down and pins her on the ground. Himiko refuses to give in and attacks her with her stun gun. But it lacks the power that Hidemi is still fine, and the fight continues. In a critical moment, they see Date's remote control bomb, and an explosion occurs so that the 2 girls are thrown away. Himiko is sure that Date wanted to kill her, but when Date finds Himiko alive, he tells her he wanted to help her. On the other hand, Ryota reaches the shore. He cannot find Oda anywhere. Tomoki finds the supplies on the land. He comes and takes the supplies. That is when a bomb explodes, and he dies in the explosion. Oda appears and steals Tomoki's supplies and crystal in his hand. Just then, Ryota appears and tells Oda to raise his hands. Oda follows his instruction and raises his hands. Ryota tells Oda to put down all the supplies including the crystal he got. Oda casually follows his instruction, but Ryota is worried and thinks Oda set a trap and thinks Oda has planted Date's remote control bomb. Ryota then asks Oda to show his arm where he should have put the controller. Ryota is surprised that he cannot find the controller on his arm. Feeling it is safe, Ryota walks towards the supplies, but it turns out Oda holds the controller in his mouth. When Ryota reaches the supplies, Oda activates the bomb, and it explodes with a bang. Oda turns his head, and he is shocked to find Ryota survive from the explosion. The scene of Ryota against Oda is acknowledged by the organizer. They didn't expect that Oda could trick Ryota, but after paying close attention, it turns out Ryota tricked Oda. Ryota walked to the side where Oka couldn't see him. As Oda thought Ryota arrived at the location where the bomb was, Oda activated the bomb. But it turned out Ryota stood far enough behind the bomb. When the smoke from the explosion is still blowing, Ryota attacks Oda with his bomb. He looks at his radar and finds Oda is doing something. He realizes it and runs to the water. It turns out Oda uses Tomoka's firebomb. Oda is upset that Ryota read his plan and ran into the water. After that, Oda packs his supplies and walks away. Before he gets too far, he turns to see Ryota and recognizes him. After that, he leaves the shore. Kosuke appears far away. He is amazed by Ryota's battle just now. Unfortunately, Kosuke gets his bag back when Ryota fought Oda, and he leaves after that. Ryota reaches the land and lays his back on the sand. He is upset that he lost his bag and didn't get the supplies. After that, Himiko and Date approach him. They then return to Terra's place. That is when Ryota feels he knows Oda. Back then in his school life, he had a close friend called Oda Nobutaka. They were very close that Ryota told him anything. One day, Ryota told him that he liked a girl named Eiko. But one day, Ryota saw Eiko crying, and Oda was the person who made her cry. Ryota asked her what happened. Oda replied that he had slept with Eiko. It turned out Eiko had a feeling for Oda, and Oda took the chance to sleep with her. Upset, Ryota fought Oda. Ryota is sure that Oda, whom he just fought, is his friend from the past at school. Not long after that, Terra's condition is getting worse. Himiko suggests that they go to Murasaki's place to take medicine. Later, Himiko, Ryota, and Date head out to Murasaki's place. On the way, Himiko tells Ryota that she doesn't trust Date, but Ryota trusts him because he is kind to them. Himiko protests and claims it is just a mask, but Ryota insists on telling her that Date genuinely helps them. Shortly, they finally arrive at Murasaki's place. Because they forget the location of the medicine, they decide to separate ways to find the medicine. It turns out Date recognizes the facility, and he can easily find the room where the medicines are stored. He takes some of them and puts them in a bag. Ryota arrives in the room and finds Date has finished taking the medicines. Date then asks Ryota to bring the bag. Ryota takes the bag from him without a doubt. After that, they decide to find Himiko and return to Terra's place. Ryota activates his radar and finds Himiko runs in a hurry. Ryota looks at Himiko, who looks panicked. Himiko yells that Ryota must throw the bag away. But at that time, Date presses the button on his controller, and the bomb in the bag explodes.
What?
And he hides from the explosion. After getting rid of Ryota, Date walks closer to Himiko, but before he gets to touch her, Murasaki appears and stabs him from behind. Murasaki and Himiko run away from him, and Date runs after them. It turns out Date has planted several bombs around the building, and he only needs to explode the bomb near Himiko and Murasaki to defeat them. However, Murasaki leads Himiko to a safe place. She then throws Himiko's bomb toward Date. They argue and throw bombs at each other. The action of throwing bombs at a distance manages to lure Murasaki to the place where Date planted the bomb. An explosion ensued and Murasaki fell. After that, Date goes after Himiko, and he is benefited because Himiko has a mental breakdown and cannot do anything. Date throws Ryota's bomb, but it hits Himiko's breasts and bounces away without exploding. Date wonders why it didn't explode. Just then, Ryota appears and tells him that the bomb only activates in the hands of the owner. Date is surprised and wonders how Ryota managed to survive. It turns out Ryota had thrown the bag away before he jumped into a hole in the room. Thus, he managed to survive even though he got some injuries. Date runs away and Ryota chases him. Date hides in a safe place, and he feels he already wins when Ryota stands in front of the bomb he hid. Date presses the button to activate the bomb, but it turns out Ryota found the bomb and moved it. The bomb explodes near Date's place, causing him to fall on the ground with burns, but he is still alive. Murasaki appears and tries to kill him, but she has a soft heart toward him and forgives him. After that, Himiko takes a bath. Ryota waits not far from her. They then talk about Date and Murasaki. After that, they head to Terra's place. On the way, Ryota tells her that they need to collect the crystal from the dead players. Ryota is not aware that Terra took the crystals from them. So far, Ryota and Himiko have 3 crystals, and coincidentally, Terra also has 2 crystals. They go to see the dead players but realize that their crystals have been taken away, and Ryota suspects Terra took them away. They head to Terra's place and the fog appears. Not long after that, Terra's targeting bomb appears and leads toward Himiko and Ryota. On the other hand, it turns out Terra had a dilemma when Ryota and Himiko left him. As the fog thickens, he gets surrounded by illusions and sees the shadow of his son. He then wakes up to meet his son, but he also sees his wife. Because he wants to meet his family, Terra intends to kill and take Ryota and Himiko crystals, and he hides behind the trees. When he sees Ryota climbing the ladder, Terra targets her with the bomb. Realizing there is a bomb, Ryota runs away. The bomb keeps moving and targeting him. Fortunately, Ryota manages to hit the bomb with a stick. However, the second bomb appears and Ryota hits it, but his leg gets hit by the explosion. The next bomb appears and Himiko gets to catch the bomb and deactivate it. He knows that the bomb is only active when it is in the target radius. Seeing how Himiko protected him, Ryota remembers about Himiko in the game who also protected him. On the other hand, Terra changes his target into Himiko and throws the bomb. Himiko tries to catch the bomb again, but Ryota feels something's wrong. He jumps and catches the bomb and deactivates it. Fortunately, his guess is right. Ryota and Himiko then find Terra's place because he is moving. Feeling threatened, he runs away. Ryota and Himiko chase him, telling him that they want to work with him again. Ryota tells Terra to return with them. Hearing that, Terra feels touched, but unfortunately, he spots a group of Komodo dragons surrounding him. Thus, he targets the bomb himself and it explodes with a bang. A moment later, Ryota and Himiko return to their hideout. Himiko took Tera's crystal and 2 crystals he kept. Now they have 8 crystals in total, including the crystals on Himiko and Ryota's hands. Himiko tells Ryota to kill her so that he can go home, but he declines. He realizes that the Himiko in front of him right now is the Himiko he knows in the game. Himiko confirms it and they kiss. Ryota pushes Himiko onto the couch and notices Himiko is quivering with fear due to her recent incidents. Just then, Oda appears in Ryota's mind and taunts Ryota. Ryota shuts off Oda and blames himself for Tera's death. Himiko wonders why Ryota didn't do that. Ryota tells Himiko that they will get home together and do things together as a couple when they get home. Meanwhile, in the game corporation, they notice something happened on the island and the technician should fix it immediately. A man is seen getting into a helicopter and talks to himself that it is the only way he can do for Ryota. Thank you for faithfully watching content from this channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our content. See you in the next part.